Welcome to the StoryTeller podcast. This is week 10 of 11. Oh, golly geez. They're staring at me. Anyways, so we're doing a series on Sunday mornings called StoryTeller because Jesus was the greatest storyteller. So through hearing the parables and the stories, hopefully that will unlock some mysteries to you and to your heart and what Jesus wants for you to do with your life. So this week we are talking about the parable of the lost son. And today we have our guest is Trevor Eller.
Yay, Trevor.
Welcome. All right. So I'm going to read the parable, and then Mike's going to start recapping, and we'll start getting into our discussion.
Okay, where are we looking again while you're reading?
Wherever you want to look. Luke 15:11 through 32. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to the fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened cow and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For the son of mine was dead and is now alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.' The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders, yet you have never given me a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is again alive. He was lost and is found.'"
Look at that, all the way through without one hitch.
Man.
Did you run out of breath?
That was brutal. No.
All right, so just do the quick recap. So I think for this parable specifically, Jesus is addressing a problem with the Pharisees because they were mad at him by the way he spent his time, right? So the Pharisees would look at Jesus and say, "No rabbi goes to a tax collector's house. No rabbi goes to a sinner's house. No rabbi goes to places where sinners are. Rabbis spend their time with church people. If you want to be a rabbi, you got to clean up your act, And so Jesus is essentially saying, well, you've missed the heart of the Father if you think that the only time or the only people you would spend time with are people that are churched, essentially. So Jesus starts on the trilogy of parables that would say, if you want to understand the heart of the Father, if you want to know why I spend time with the tax collectors, here's the stories. 99 sheep, one's missing, go look for him. There's a coin, lost, sweep the floor, and then the son, that was missing. And so the whole parable isn't even about the prodigal son, which I think is funny because all growing up, I've heard this story, and it's all about the prodigal son, and he came home, and everything was good. But the story was being told because of the reaction of the older son. The older son who was religious, essentially, and mad because, the younger son, got, what he thought he didn't deserve, inside of that. So I think the big thing that people are trying to take away from this, or I think the thing we should probably try to figure out is, what is the heart of the Father, right? So the Father, central to the story, one son ran away, wild living. One son stayed at home and was good. Neither one of them had a relationship with the Father, right? So how does a father react to sons who essentially don't treat him like a father? And I think the whole parable centers around that. But the thing that stuck out to me the most, and I'd love to hear both of your perspectives, I've always said, I think it's a struggle for churched people who have grown up in church to reach people who are lost. Do you think that's true? Do you think that's false? Do you think, what about your own life? I mean, I don't know how it is for you. So Trevor, true, false, thoughts? I mean, do people find it hard to reach lost people? Like the church people
100%.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, shoot. Just,
I mean, they not want to be around them? Do they think they're
I think they just don't know how to approach it. Just how to approach the issues.
Okay.
Like,
You mean issues like they got problems and they're trying to solve them? Or?
yeah, like I don't. I'm so unprepared for this, but I shouldn't have winged this. I should have sent me a list of questions.
We don't have a list of questions with Mike. No, there's no such thing.
Well, you know what I mean? So the idea is, Trevor, so like for you live in a lost generation.
Yeah.
Right? So there's tons of kids your age that have nothing to do with the church who grew up in the church.
Yeah.
Right? Like grew up in a church, parents took them all the time and want nothing to do with that piece of it.
Yeah.
Number one, why or how do you reach those people? Because maybe they don't even have issues other than they just ain't going anywhere, or they don't go to church, or they don't know Christ.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is they don't understand the love of the Father. They don't understand that he does love me. He's not gonna, what's the word? Like,
yeah, like discipline you.
Yeah, he's not gonna, he's gonna discipline you, but at the end of the day, he's gonna love you and he's gonna show you that he loves you. I mean, you're not.
But you know, the funny thing is, Trevor, and I think this is interesting because when you look at discipline, before your relationship with Christ, he tends not to discipline you. He tends to welcome you.
Yes.
The ones he disciplines are the ones who says they're believers, and you're going off a path, and he disciplines you to bring you back onto the right path. So I always think it's like weird for people who aren't in that to think of God that way.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't think that he'd be, that way, to lost people. Do you?
I think people have a misconception of what God is. I think a lot of them think that he is a God of rules. And because to be a Christian is not fun. You can't go out and do certain things. You got to do this. So who they think God is not a true representation of who God is. Like Trevor was saying, God does love us. You can walk away, but you can turn. I told someone yesterday who was telling me something. I said, all you have to do is you look right here. He's right here still. He's not leaving you. He's right there. You just have to turn your vision to him, Yeah,
so do you think like the challenge so do you think that the reason, well, maybe ask this question. Do Christians on a regular basis invite and bring people who are far away from God to God on a regular basis?
No.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's first decide that, because if the heart of the Father this is what he said. So the son left, which I think that's interesting too, that the Father's just like, you want to go wreck your life? I mean, you can go do whatever you want. And I think that's true of God. Like if you want to go out, we can't control and he's not going to control, right? Like if you want to go out and wreck your life or do whatever you want, go out and do whatever you want. But I'm going to go stand on the hill and wait for you to come home. So if the heart of the Father is, I'm going to be waiting for, I'm going to be looking for, I want to be welcoming in, those people are lost. Why don't we? What do you think the biggest drawback other than we don't know how to solve their problems? Is that what you said, Trevor? Like we don't know how to solve their problem?
We just don't know how to properly reach them. And I think the proper way of reaching them is just loving them first. But that's really freaking hard. That's really hard to get involved in someone's life and I'm going to sit with you and I'm going to work with you every day and help you get it right.
You think it's tough to be in relationship with people?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's really hard.
Do
Yeah.
you think so, Jennifer?
At one time, yes, I would have said that. But I always go back to when you kept telling us, don't sit in your office, get in relationship with people. You need to get in relationship with people. And so it is, like you said, it's just making yourself available for conversations and to build those relationships so people can see Jesus, through you. And one of the things that was always fearful for me when I would meet with someone, I'm like, what are they going to ask me? I don't know all of Scripture. How am I going to? But that's not what they want. They just want a friend. They just want someone to listen to them, somebody to, walk alongside, help them if they sometimes just need some place to talk.
Right. Because I would say the majority of people that are lost aren't lost from the standpoint of, I don't intellectually believe. You know what I mean? Like, I can't figure out creationism, or I would have this scientific view of life. And I mean, I've had those, but I think that's few and far between. I just think people are, so if the one of the drawbacks is that being a Christian is no fun, is that true?
I don't think that's
No.
true.
Huh?
No, you can still have fun.
Yeah, but but back to, if that's one of the biggest drawbacks is, well, if I'm a Christian, I can't get hammered anymore, or if I'm a Christian, I can't do these sort of things anymore. I mean, that's the other part of it is that, do we not want to convince them because we don't want them to think that we're like fuddy-duddies, or like, you know what I mean? Like, because I wonder that if there are other barriers that keep people from going out there and looking. So do you have a way that you go about reaching lost people?
No, just make myself available.
Okay.
It was funny when I was leaving right after second service, you were still talking. I was kind of trying to go get something for somebody, and someone stepped right in the aisle, and she looked at me and she's like, I was not going to let you leave until I told you, thank you for being on the hill.
Aw.
And it was just like,
Look at that.
and it was just an opportunity that presented itself on a Sunday morning, and a friendship created, and the ways that I've been able to help her. And it wasn't all the time, but it was periodically. So it's not hard. It's not hard. It's just being like, if you're in the
Wait a second. You said it's not hard to make yourself available?
but it takes time. I didn't do that at the beginning, but no, it's not hard to make yourself available for conversations. It's just conversations with people,
Right.
Just being real with people, just sharing your life with people. And
Right.
as messed up as that can be, we all have, and sometimes they need to see that from us. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm no better than you. I got
Right.
my own crap and you do too. So let's walk the journey together.
Right. What about for you, Trevor? You live in an online world, in a virtual world. Can you be available to people virtually?
Yeah, you can, but nobody really talks about it. I mean,
Okay.
You just joke around a lot
Yeah.
and yell at people, curse them out.
Because I just
That's
always
what
thought that was an interesting too, because
I mean, you
being
for sure
available,
can.
relationally, whether it be virtually or whether it be in person, I think there's this new world that would say, oh yeah, you can be available to people virtually.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
it actually may be easier because everyone's just so open on there. It may be actually easier
Right.
because you just build relationships so fast with people on there.
Right.
Because the barrier to entry is so low. It's just like, I've
Right.
known you for like 30 minutes, but yet we're talking like deep stuff about our life. It just happens so fast on there. So it may be a really good place
Right.
to do it. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So there's a good example of being available. So don't make it so that, a lot of people are like, it's got to be done a certain way. And I've always said, I think one of the things that we have to do, so if you want to be available, it has to become top of mind, because I don't think it's top of mind. Like, I don't think you think about it a lot. And so I always tell people, like, create a 10 most wanted list. We've had that I told my kids clear back when I taught youth for the first year, I said, do you pray for by name daily people who are lost? And I would say the majority of people today, if I said, hey, who are you praying for that is lost by name? I would say there are a lot of people that would say, oh, I'm praying for the lost and I want to reach the lost. I'm like, but who do you know that you're specifically praying for? I think that's a good start, to be able to do that. Have you ever done that, like by name?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's times that we've done that on a Sunday morning,
Right.
wrote names on rocks and things
Right.
like that, and I do have someone specifically that I do pray that for. I don't have 10 people, but
No,
I should.
I
No,
think
but that's a
yeah.
great thing. I mean, who are those people that we should do? So.
Right. And be able to, again, because then it goes back into, do we believe that through the power of prayer, God's going to give us an opportunity, an opportunity, whether it's online or an opportunity offline, to be able to share that. The other view that I think is important, so the Father shows that we should have a heart for lost people, but he also shows that the more religious we become, the more actually angry we become about grace, right? Like that to me was the perspective of, like, the better you become. Like in the beginning of your journey, you love grace. Right? You're like, thank the Lord for the grace. And then you see the people, the longer they are in religion, the less graceful they become. Do you think that's true about people, not true about people?
Oh, it's 100% true. Because, I mean, the further and further you get away from, I was once that lost person, the more it's like, I've just been doing it right, or feel like I've been doing it right so long. Why can't they get it right?
Yeah.
Why can't they just figure it out like I did?
Yeah, that's a good point, Trevor, because we get to that place like, what's wrong with you?
Like, how do you just not know this?
Yeah.
Like, it's common sense, but it's like, they don't know yet.
Yeah, but we were all there at that
Yes.
time,
Yep.
with that. Jennifer, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. I know I do that sometimes.
You do?
I do. And my son probably can tell me that I do that too. And it's not intentional.
No.
I don't think it's that we intentionally try to do that. But yeah, sometimes that can creep in, and we do have to remember that through that lens of, that sometimes we're still lost people. We are found, but sometimes we start drifting off, so can be still lost.
Well, and I think that for me, that the concept of we have got to be good as a church. So this is the other thing. It's like you need to be a part of an organization or a part of a church that pushes you to not get in a circle and you want to be in a circle, but you don't want to be in a clique. You want to be in a circle, but you want to be purposeful, because I think it's very easy for the church to get focused on the found and forget the lost, And so I think we all that are in the church and that are doing these things have to remember the reason that we are in community and the reason that we read our Bible and the reason that we do those things. And so, I think we need to think creatively of how do we continue to be a church that lives on mission, because I think the mission becomes internal and not external. Don't you? Over time, don't you think it could just become
Yes.
Just take, and most of the problems you deal with are about church people, and not so much about, like, you organize around, those types of things. So,
Well, we're at 17 minutes.
yeah. Trevor, final thoughts. Out of all of it, what would you take away? What's going to be the takeaway or the next steps for you?
Next steps for me, just finally figuring out how to get on top of that mountain and not be the one in the valley, constantly being like, having to go back up there, be like, I messed up again. I messed up again.
Oh, that's good.
I finally want to be that person that gets up there, be like, well, I can help you now.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome. Jennifer?
I think looking for new opportunities, new ways to be around people, and always, continue to look. Even as I was reflecting, it's like I remember when my daughter Emma was little, she would always say, "Mom, do not talk to anybody when you go into the grocery store." She hated me talking to people, but you know what? You can have some amazing conversations. So give yourself margin when you go into some places, because you don't know what God's going to do if you make yourself available, even in any situation that you're in. Just pause and take those moments to let some of those things transpire. So.
Yeah, I think a combination of those things. I think, like Trevor said, intentionality, working hard to be intentional, to say, I want to be the guy on the hill. Like, I want to be, not that we're replacing Jesus, but we are at times the Father who welcomes home people, right? We are that first person they see that we can welcome them. We can show them the Father, then we can show them Jesus, but a lot of times we're the person that they see. And so being very intentional about saying, you know what, even in the midst of my mistakes, I can still be on the hill, right? Like, I can still be out there watching. And I think the other part of the intentionality is to say, if you don't have margin, you will not reach lost people.
Right.
That's just, if you don't have margin in your life, there is no time for the things that are most difficult. So making sure that we intentionally make time. And I would always say, for this to make sense, for us to continue to have the heart of the Father, I think that we need to by name pray for those who are lost. And if you don't have a name, I mean, that's my suggestion. If you don't have a name, get out there.
There's plenty of people.
Yeah, there's plenty of people to pray for by name.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so cool that when you can start going down your list and you can look over year after year after year where God has answered those prayers, or people that you've been praying for 20 years, but it's still, that like God's going to give you, that opportunity. So when this comes out, we're asking to go just a little bit deeper, whatever it looks like when you look at this parable and it unlocks the mysteries, like all of what we said, when the mystery is unlocked, God says you're going to live differently. So what should we be doing differently? And we'll just challenge you with us. What does it look like now for you to be and have the heart of the Father, not get caught up in religion, stand on the top of the hill, reach the lost. Even when we are discipling each other, we're discipling to prepare to be on top of the hill. So again, when this comes out, make sure you like, share, comment, or go on our YouTube. And while you're there, make sure that you subscribe and leave a comment there too. We'd love that. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.